What happened at Balhae Station in the past? Episode 8 of The Silent Sea begins in the past, as we see more of what happened to the research station. The area we saw covered in fauna is evacuated, as numerous people rush to get free. A solitary seed on the ground is crushed, as the lunar water oozes across the ground and reacts to the seed, which is why everything started to grow so drastically. Now, on the station it turns out Director Choi made a grave decision to trap everyone aboard the station, and try to keep the accident on Balhae a secret. She closed the gates while armed guards kept all of those inside at bay. This explains the numerous dead bodies piled in the storage rooms. The flooded station, skipping forward to the present, water floods through the station. Thankfully it doesn't reach our surviving characters, at least not yet, who deliberate over what to do about Luna and the medical bay. Human experimentation and cloning are both illegal operations, and it soon becomes clear that Jan's place on this mission was a calculated gamble. Given Jan's sister was at the front of this operation, she deduced that Jan wouldn't speak up about her crimes. Unfortunately, things take an awful turn when Jan begins to experience symptoms of the infection. As her vision blurs, Jan scrambles to isolate herself from the others. Just as she locks the door, she begins vomiting water. In this purpose, however, Jan recovers, thanks in part to Luna. When Jan heads back out to see the others, Dr. Hong deduces that this could well be to do with Luna's DNA, which seems to serve as an antibody of sorts. She could well be the key to preventing the infection and saving the world. While they talk, Han and Suking deduce that Gisu and Taesuk were both working for RX, a rival company down on Earth. When Han finds out, he immediately speaks to Mr. Kim. Now, the rescue shuttle is inbound to their location, but Han's attempts to organize a coup and overthrow Director Choi comes up trumps. Unfortunately, this also means going back to Earth is out the question, at least for the time being. Instead, Jan decides they should head up to the International Institute of Space Biology together. That way they can take Luna to neutral territory and try to organize a more suitable plan from there. Another who's infected happens to be Taesuk. Oh no, what a shame. Anyway, he begins experiencing hallucinations, including seeing a whole bunch of soldiers in front of him. This links back to echoes of the past, as he panics and begins to question just what he's doing. After Han gains Luna's trust, bonding over his special badge given by his daughter, the astronauts find themselves scrambling to safety, as the lunar water begins to spread throughout the station. What happens with Taesuk? With the gates closing, they eventually find themselves face to face with Taesuk, who's delirious and clearly not of sane mind. As we soon learn, he was actually one of those soldiers on the station back when Choi ordered everything to be shut down, and he has been haunted by this ever since. Soo-hyuk is hurt enough, and shoots Taesuk dead, knocking him down, so they can scramble to safety. Unfortunately, Soo-hyuk takes a fatal bullet for his troubles, and it doesn't look like he's going to make it. As Taesuk vomits watery blood, the others grab the samples, and make it through to the next part of the base. However, Han sacrifices himself to save the others, and allows the water to consume him. But why? Well, it turns out in order for the group to ascend to safety, they need to activate the decompression chamber from outside, and Han, as the captain, bravely volunteers himself to do this, much to the horror of the others, when they find out what he's done. How does the Silent Sea end? Dr. Hong, Jan, and Luna all make it to the surface. Heading outside the base, and presumably with enough oxygen to travel 7.6 kilometers. Luna actually takes off her spacesuit and wanders across the surface. Apparently she can breathe in outer space too, and as she holds onto Han's badge, a spacecraft hovers overhead, ready to take them to safety. Has Earth been saved? Based on what we've seen, it's fair to say the water will be restored on Earth. Hong and Jan both had the water samples, and this should be enough to save the planet. Luna will presumably turn into a guinea pig, with her strange abilities examined and prodded by scientists. I can't see Jan's plan of skipping across to this alternate space station working, especially as Choi is still in charge. However, I'd imagine they'll find a cure to the lunar water disease from Luna, and potentially use that to offset the effects of this water, making these vaccines mandatory, in order to drink the water. A lot of this is all guesswork though, given the show ends so openly. But what do you guys think? Do you have a better theory and idea? Do let us know in the comments below. Well, that was rather rushed, wasn't it? The Silent Sea bows out with a conclusive and exciting mad scramble out the station. Unfortunately, this also leaves lots of questions unanswered. The biggest and most pressing concern here comes from Luna. How was she able to just wander across the moon without a spacesuit? How did she not burn or freeze to death? Have they developed clones that can exceed human capabilities? What are the extent of Luna's powers? She seems to be unstoppable. We're also no closer to finding out if Earth has been saved or doomed to its fate, while the situation involving Director Choi is left unresolved too. Given the show made a big deal about that these past few episodes, the lack of resolution is a little disappointing. However, as a simple and enjoyable mystery horror hybrid, The Silent Sea certainly has some positives. It feels very reminiscent of shows like Night Flyers and Origin, while the claustrophobic feel and the concepts are solid, albeit one's rife for plot contrivances and logical jumps. Despite that, if you can go into this one and not think too much about the twisted logic, there's enough to enjoy. It's been a bumpy ride, but the ending does at least round out the story with a presumed happy conclusion. At least it's not a cliffhanger. What does the ending of The Silent Sea really mean? The Silent Sea ends with Luna, Hong, and Song being rescued, while Captain Han's fate remains ambiguous. Once outside the base, Luna takes off her spacesuit, walking freely along the craters of the moon, which would probably mean that the lunar water inside her system has granted her the ability to survive the moon's atmosphere. While it is unclear as to what Luna's future entails, Song would likely try her best to provide her with a healthy, balanced life, while working on making lunar water suitable for human usage and consumption. However, the implications still remain grim, as the Saw are capitalists at the core, willing to amplify their influence at the cost of ethics and equity. Moreover, there is no sure-shot way of making sure that lunar water is suitable for one and all, as even a distilled-compatible version could be a misfit for certain individuals and age groups. What happened at the end of Silent Sea? The final episode of The Silent Sea ends with the rescue ship arriving with the intent of heading back to Earth, but not much else is known for certain, including the status of Song, Dr. Hong Georgia Young, Kim Sun Young, and Luna's, Kim Sie, health and overall state. What happens to Luna at the end of Silent Sea? Only Luna 073 was able to survive the lunar water within her system. Moreover, she was able to imbibe its many properties and gain superhuman abilities due to experimentation, including the power to heal injuries. Related, Squid Game vs. My Name, which Korean series' twist ending was more shocking. Did Captain Han survive the Silent Sea? Though it initially seems like Han dies in the effort, as the chamber he is in floods with lunar water, when the water eventually bursts out of the base and into the lunar atmosphere, he is thrown with it. Is The Silent Sea a true story? The show basically revolves around the moon and the surface of it, and follows the story of a crew sent on the moon. So, it is not really based on the true event, although researches have been done before making the show. The Silent Sea Season 2 plot, what will happen? Unless a time jump comes into play, The Silent Sea will focus on the last two survivors and their journey back to Earth with Luna. Given how unique their young charge is, not to mention what her very existence means to the scientific community, Dr. Song and Dr. Hong could end up on the run, or at least in hiding, while political forces seek Luna out for their own gain. The premise of this show offers a striking commentary on the environmental issues our planet faces today in the present, so this will continue to play a key role in future seasons of The Silent Sea too. Assuming that Season 2 does happen, we imagine that the creatives involved might try to incorporate some of the feedback fans had for Season 1. Following the premiere, Gong Yu reacted directly to the show's mixed response in a chat with Sports Chosun via Soonpi. When I received the script and started working on the drama, I knew that some people would love it and some people would hate it. Since it's in the sci-fi genre, I expected that the split would be even more extreme. I thought there were many different perspectives that the drama could be approached from, whether it's scientific or a historical investigation. Of course, he added, there were parts that were lacking, and I know about the small amount of negative perspectives. But I think that we made the best choices we could within the reality and class that we could achieve. It's not all doom and gloom though. Speaking about the show's impact, Gong Yu went on to say, I think that we opened the door for potential developments. I think that this is a meaningful first step for the specifically Korean space sci-fi genre. Personally, there are parts that I'm very satisfied with, and I think it was brilliant for a first step. Many people watch from different perspectives, but I think of those diverse perspectives as garnering more interest in the drama, so I'm grateful. Will there be a Season 2 of The Silent Sea? The series is based on a short film, named The Sea of Tranquility, which was released in 2014. And there will be chances of The Silent Sea, Season 2.